Hello, welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Rick Anthony. When Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Barbara Streisand, Elizabeth Taylor, Burt Reynolds, and scores of other famous people in entertainment, politics, business, and government were in the public, there was always an unobtrusive presence of a security person trained to protect them from harm. Most often, for the celebrities I just mentioned and many more, the unobtrusive person was Richard Ayoob, an Army veteran who turned a limousine service into an international security, risk assessment, and investigation company. In his business, Richard and his colleagues are expected to anticipate risks and be prepared to deflect or solve problems discreetly with as little notice as possible. It's a real treat for me to have as my guest today Richard Ayoob, founder and senior consultant of RGA Investigations, Inc. Hello, Richard, and I really appreciate your being with me today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you're going to interview me. It's the first time I've ever been interviewed by anyone.
Well, I appreciate that particularly because, as you said, this is the first time you've ever sat for an interview like this, which I really didn't understand because you've got so many stories to tell. You have lived such a celebrated life.
Well, that's the part of executive protection, to be quiet about it. We don't want to upset.
You have to be discreet. Yeah. First of all, what's the difference? What's the difference between an investigative or investigation protection and a bodyguard?
Well, there is a big difference. Being a executive protection person, you're required to do more than just be there to protect that person. There's so much advanced work that has to be done. If you're protecting someone that does a lot of concerts, you're required to precede their performance, to go out to see what the venue looks like, to meet the managers of the venue, to meet the police detail. You want to meet the chauffeur. You want to know what that chauffeur knows about the area, if he knows where he's going. When you get to the hotel, you want to meet the security of the hotel. You want to meet the manager of the hotel. You want to look at the room. You want to see how your entrance and exits of all the areas you go to. It's much more different than just being what they call a bodyguard.
Yeah.
We do pre-work, which is very, very important to get everything and to have the people know where they're going and what they're doing. You don't want to pull up and get off an airplane and have a chauffeur run over and want to ask that celebrity or someone, can I take a picture? Can I have your autograph?
Uh-huh.
That has to be stopped in the beginning. So that's the difference between executive protection
The drill you just went through sounds like the FBI or the CIA.
It was copied after that. That's what I ran the company to follow, something like that. I had an executive from a very big corporation in New York. It was the richest privately owned company in the United States. They sent me and the owner of the company to the Secret Service training school in McLean, Virginia for 2 weeks. And the Secret Service wanted the executives of these corporations to go out with their security people and learn what to do and what not to do. That happened at the time. I think there was a major bombing at the Exxon. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you remember something like that. And one of the executives was killed. So they required and they requested that corporate executives do that. And I went with them for 2 weeks. And I copied myself after that experience.
Mm-hmm. Like most of us, you came from humble beginnings. Did you ever dream that your name would be in the Rolodexes of some of the most famous people in the world?
I didn't dream about it. I really didn't think about it. How it all started is I started the limousine service in 1963. And in the limousine service in New York City, those people were called the carriage trade. They were people like the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, very big celebrities. And as you're driving them, and I started when I was 19 years old. So while you're driving them, it automatically get a trip ticket that would say, pick up Mrs. Vanderbilt on so-and-so Fifth Avenue. It became automatic. So when I went into the security business, I was aware of how to handle people like that, how to handle celebrities, how to handle people from the Manhattan, Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue area. So it didn't enter my mind whether I was going to have a Rolodex about it. It just came.
Yeah. Starts with A, so you're right at the top.
Oh, thank you.
I've interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, and I've been a part of the entrepreneurial community for over 25 years. Lost a lot of money as an investor. But I always ask whether or not their success was luck or by plan. Has your success, your company, been as a result of luck or plan or both in most cases?
It was neither luck nor planned. It evolved. I mean, like I said, I would want, and it was a necessary industry, a very necessary industry. A lot of these people that maybe you're not aware of, they have stalkers. They have people trying to enter their private residence. They're being followed. And it just automatically, when they would hire us, it just, I didn't plan it. I didn't plan it. It just happened. And a security business to this day is, like you said, is probably one of the biggest industries going.
All word of mouth, I assume.
Well, I have to attribute a lot of my clients from recommendations. Say Frank Sinatra would recommend someone to me. His publicists, Salters and Roskin, they were very big in the industry, and they saw how I would take care of him or take care of one of their other clients, and they would naturally have me take care of another person that would request security. Mm-hmm. Plus the fact, I think they saw how I handled a certain person, and that they would call up and say, could you take care of me? Could you take care of my corporation, or take care of my tour that I'm going on? And that's how it all happened. Word of mouth. I don't think I've ever had an advertisement once.
Yeah. Technology has had a tremendous impact on just about every business. How has it impacted your business?
Well, to tell you the truth, it's been great. First of all, years ago, like I said, starting back in the 60s, there were no cell phones. And we had two-way radios. We bought the best radios we could get. And we wanted to have instant contact with our counterparts. So if I'm in the leading a detail and I have 5 other gentlemen working with me or females, I was able to contact them within seconds by having a two-way radio. Then, of course, GPS came along. GPS was very important because we would have limousine drivers that would have to sit and look at a map. Now they put the address in. We don't have to worry about getting lost. We don't have to be driving around the block 6 times looking for an address. Now my company does fingerprinting. We are the fingerprinters for the state of New Jersey and New York. We do all the fingerprinting for pistol permits, bus drivers, nurses, school teachers, healthcare workers, camp counselors. We fingerprint everybody. We have 2 offices. In our main office, we have 2 separate offices that fingerprint people, probably one every 10 to 12 minutes during the course of the day, during an 8-hour day. So, and that's part of our business now. And actually, my son runs that.
I mentioned to you when we were setting up for this that my eldest son, Richard Anthony Jr., he's a singer. And he loves Sinatra. And from when he was a little kid, he loved Sinatra. And he tried to emulate Sinatra. And he has sung with bands, big bands, and he has said that it's absolutely amazing how much Sinatra sounds like him. And if you close your eyes and listen to him sing, you'd swear that's Sinatra. The phrasing and so on, he really works at it. At any rate, he has met Sinatra. He's been in touch with Nancy on a regular basis. He met Jilly Rizzo.
Yes.
And he told me at the time, he said, Jilly really resisted being called a bodyguard. He didn't want to be called a bodyguard because he wasn't. He was a close associate. He was a friend of Sinatra, as you know. But how did you work in your capacity with somebody like Jilly Rizzo?
Well, actually, Jilly was the person that he was the guy. He was the person that if you were going to work for them, you had to pass Jilly's scrutiny. He owned a big restaurant in New York City, but he was also Frank Sinatra's very, very personal friend. He handled everything. So he was the one that actually gave the okay for me to do the work for them. We became very close friends. He was such a gentleman, such a nice person. I became close friends with his two sons, Joseph and Willie. And it was a big loss when he passed away. He was involved in a very serious car accident on his birthday. But he was easy to work with, that I considered. He adored my wife. My wife would do a lot of errands, personal errands for him. My wife worked in the Sinatra office. She handled the special reservations and tickets for the shows. And she also, she's licensed private investigator and armed. And she would take care of Barbara Sinatra. And all of this came through Jilly. Jilly would say, Barbara Sinatra's going out. She's going to a matinee, or she's going shopping. Could Adele take care of her and be with her? So he was an intricate part of the corporation and the company of the Sinatra Enterprises.
Like Sinatra, you must have had a number of very special relationships with your clients. But talk about Sinatra for a moment. Was he as tough as his public image portrayed him to be?
He was an unusual. I mean, I think the things that you read about him, and I'm not going to elaborate it, I mean, you have to make your own judgment. As far as I'm concerned, he was great to me. I'm talking 24 and a half years. I loved my family, took very good care of us. My wife worked in the office. When my boys were 15, 16 years old, he was so nice to them, they wound up doing his security later on in life. Yeah. So he was great. I'll never forget a time when my room was connected to their suite at the Waldorf Towers. It was a separate room, and I would stay in that room. And I get a knock on the door, and it was Jilly, and he says, the boss wants to see you. So I go into the suite. Mr. Sinatra says, I hear the boys, meaning my sons, their dog died. And I said, yes, he passed away. And he handed me a puppy and said, take this home to the kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, little things like that. Yeah. I mean, he was so generous in a lot of ways. I mean, I do have plenty of stories on his generosity. And, we had a special relationship. We were on the road together for 2 weeks, just him and I. And we were at the Reagan campaign when President Reagan was switching from 4 years. He was trying to get reelected for the next 4 years. And we did the campaign. We flew all over the country with the Reagans. And on a Friday night, the last night of the tour, Mr. Sinatra says, I'm going back to California tomorrow. Why don't you head back to New York? He says, I'm going to be in California for a couple of months, relaxing. So he said, the next morning, we'll leave at 9 o'clock. And 9 o'clock, we wake up. We're in the same suite, a room on each end. And he comes out all dressed up in a tie and a suit. And I said to myself, he never flies in a tie and a suit. Why is he doing that? Usually wears a members only jacket and a pair of slacks. And he says, where's the luggage? I said, in the car. So we leave, we go downstairs. I don't see the luggage and I don't see the car. I see two Marines standing there in full uniform. As we walk out, they open the door, and Mr. Sinatra and myself get into their car. I'm worried, where is this luggage? I don't see our driver. I don't see the luggage. Next thing I know, 3 blocks away, we pull into the White House. Pull up to the resident area. The White House has a separate area where the family, the first family, they go in, it's their residence area. We walk in, and there's Nancy Reagan waiting for us, and she greets us good morning and hugs him. Hello, good morning, and everything. She says, good morning, Richard, meaning me. And she did know me because we were on the road for 2 weeks with them. We go into a little room, and there's President Reagan sitting there. Nancy Reagan, myself, and Frank Sinatra. He never said a word to me. It was almost like I'm going to surprise him with this. Yeah. And we sat and had breakfast with him. Yeah. I mean, that was the type of thing. He would never say to you, guess what, we're going to go have breakfast. He just did it. And I never questioned it. And there I was, sitting in the White House, having breakfast with the president.
There were so many stories.
Like that was a relationship that probably too many people didn't see, but I saw it. I mean, there were so many other things he did.
Yeah, there were so many stories about his anonymous gift giving, his generosity. If somebody needed something, there would be an envelope with $1,000 in it. And
it was more than 1,000. Give me an envelope, and he says, take it to the Bronx, and give it to this woman. And I get in the limousine, and on the front seat of the limousine, the driver was reading the newspaper, and the article read, Mrs. Maria Rodriguez's 2 children murdered by the babysitter. And I'm sitting there with an envelope that he gave me, and he says, take it to the Bronx and give it to this woman and tell her it's from someone who cares. And I'm reading the article. That's the lady I'm going to give this envelope to. And I go to the Bronx with the driver, and I meet the lady, and I hand her the envelope, and there had to be at least $3,000 in there. And he says, and I said to her, this is from somebody who cares, and walked away. She never knew where the money came from.
Mm-hmm. You had a special relationship.
There are a lot of stories like that, a lot of them that I could tell you. Yeah.
You had a special relationship with Burt Reynolds as well. Close
Burt
relationship.
Reynolds, I was working on a movie with Burt Reynolds called Starting Over. Actually, I worked on 5 movies with Burt. And we became, I would say, almost best friends. And it was really great. He would come to my house on weekends, loved my wife's cooking. And he'd come to spend weekends at my house. And I lived about 18 miles out of Manhattan. And one afternoon, it was a Sunday afternoon, we're having a lunch, and he would always bring a famous movie actress with him. He was, it was interesting. So Burt and my sons and myself were throwing a football around on our front lawn. I had a big front lawn, and there was this road that led to a catering hall, and on weekends they had big weddings. So Burt, myself, and my 2 sons are throwing a football around, and a car pulls up with about 6 people in it, and they said, could you tell us how to get to the Colonial Manor? So Burt looks at me, and I ran over, and I said, just go down the road about 1.5 miles, it's on the right. As they're leaving, the driver turns around and says to the people in the car, boy, that guy looks just like Burt Reynolds. It was him. He would fly Adele and I all over. Anywhere he went, we went. If he went out to dinner, he always made sure that Adele and I were with him. Of course, I was there in a security presence, but we made it look like we were friends going out together. And we're at a restaurant. You want to hear more stories?
Yep.
We were at a restaurant together, a place called it was underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. And he wanted me to be partners with him in a movie company. And that was having movie trucks, vans, camera equipment, and campers. And we were going to discuss that night at the River Cafe about the partnership. Well, after dinner, my wife, I don't know how she did it, she hit a glass that was full of red wine, and it landed in his lap. My wife casually says, well, I guess that partnership is over with. He was a good guy. We had great times. He flew my kids. He put my kids in the movie. My kids are in a couple of his movies. And again, they were kids, and then they wound up doing security for him later on in years.
Tell me about Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton was the nicest lady you ever want to meet. And she was fantastic. We would go out to shows. We always had dinner together. I did so many concerts with her, and we're having dinner one night, and she heard the fact that one of my grandsons, it was his birthday. And she never said anything. The next day, we're on our way to a location wherever we're going, and she hands me an envelope. And later on, I opened the envelope, and it was a substantial check with a note. Please start his college fund with this amount.
Wow.
So she was nice. She loved my wife. Always had my wife at the concerts. Very nice person. Really nice.
And you also had a connection with the show Dynasty and the stars of Dynasty?
Well, we did the security that was a big book signing at Bloomingdale's. Bloomingdale's closed the store that day up until 1 o'clock. So from 9 to 1, you couldn't get in the store. It was on a Saturday. We had 50 security people, 50 people we needed. That's how popular that show was at that time. We were mobbed. The place was absolutely bedlam. We had to get them out the back door. They never did the book signing. That's how many people showed up for that book signing. We had to get them out. The other book sign I had with probably the most people was Howard Stern. I think I had about 25 security people on his, and we traveled all over the United States with him. And had 25 people at every book signing for him. That was horrendous. I mean, I never saw so many people wanting his signature and signing that book.
Curiosity question. Did you ever have Mario Lanza as a client?
No.
No? Or any of the other opera stars?
Well, I was with Pavarotti, who was with Sinatra. So by me being secure
yes.
for Mr. Sinatra, Pavarotti was there, and that was a big thing at Radio City Music Hall to raise money for Sloan Kettering Hospital. There are pictures on my Facebook and of that. And I really would like to thank the fans of all these people. Every day I get photos in the mail that someone took years back, and I still get them. It's amazing how many pictures the fans have taken, and they're all on my Facebook page. I post them all for them. And I thank them for it. It's very nice of them to do that.
When you had clients, either clients from the Middle East or clients that were in the Middle East, how did you deal with the cultural issues?
That's why the company is called Executive Protection and not Bodyguard. When I get notified that a prince, for instance, from Saudi Arabia is coming, when a prince comes to the United States, he brings 25 to 30 people with him. So I would get the amount of people, and I think we had 33 security people. We traveled all over with them. I mean, other countries, Hawaii, we went everywhere, all over the United States. We would spend a month in Disney, a month in Washington, D.C., a month in Hawaii. I mean, it was long, long hours. And I had 33 security people, 14 limousines, and we shipped each limousine to every place we went. They had 2 747s, one just to carry luggage and equipment, and the other to carry the people, 2 of them. What I would do, we had noticed it when they were coming, I would get all the security people, and my son would research their customs, what they like to eat, how to address them, what they wore, the hours that they would participate in a day, because they have religious hours that they work. And we would be schooled, and I would school all our security people how to handle that particular group. And apparently they liked us. They kept us for years, and we traveled all over the world, my son and I. My youngest son started working with us when he was 20 years old. He is now 51. He owns RGA by himself. He's the sole owner of the company now. My wife and myself are still private investigators. We are consultants for the company. My oldest son retired from the New York City Police Department after 23 years. He now runs our firearms agency. We are in a building that has 5 floors. He has 2 offices upstairs that he does firearm training and security guard training, and he has his own office. And my youngest son, who owns the company, has an office downstairs where he has all the investigators and security. And we house the 2 offices for the fingerprinting company on the downstairs floors.
Do you have any family members who aren't in the business?
No, just the 4 of us have done it. And my daughter-in-laws and my grandchildren, not yet. But I have a hunch a couple of those grandchildren are going to come in.
That's terrific. Has it ever occurred to you to write a memoir? All the wonderful stories you have, the experiences you have. Not a tell. You told me you didn't want to go near a telltale expose of any kind.
Well, you know, I mean, I honestly, every day I get a call from somebody. You want to write a book? You want to write a book? I got a publisher. I got a ghostwriter. I got somebody that'll help you do it. You know, first of all, I don't need it. I'm very well retired. These people trusted me. Yes. And even though a lot of them are not around, I gave them my word, not personally, but they knew that I was not going to betray or say anything, whether it was good or bad. The stories that I tell you or I tell anybody is already out there. It's already been published. It's already been somewhere. So when I tell you a story about Mr. Sinatra doing something, everybody knew it. You mentioned the envelope with money in it before I even told you.
Yeah.
So it was, it's And I felt I should probably just keep it to myself. And then again, this is my first interview to ever talk about it. I appreciate it. And I think I could leave it at that point where I'm not going to write a book. Most of the books that I've read that people have written about him are probably 25% true. Really? And the other 75% is disgraceful. It's not right. Good books are written by their family. For instance, Mr. Sinatra. His two daughters wrote wonderful books. And you can believe them. You believe those books. I read the books. They're 100% true. Other ones, I'm not happy with. And I don't want to be involved in it. That's what kept my company going all these years. These people trusted and put their welfare in my hands. And we're going to keep it that way. And I think my son...
interesting people you ever had as a client, other than Sinatra?
Oh, I've done John Travolta. We've done, we've done a lot of music groups. I mean, we're on the road with the Beach Boys. We did the Eagles, Meatloaf. He was interesting to be with. Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons was great. I loved every concert. I loved going to the concert. And of course, Barbra Streisand. I mean, I can't tell you how many concerts and security. And my son actually took over the security for Barbra Streisand. We did, I think we did 3 movies with her. I did 2, and my son worked on one movie with her. So
easy to get
they're all interesting. They're all interesting, and they're all individuals. Everybody had their own way of doing something. I also did security for the Rockefeller family. I did Mrs. John D. Rockefeller for years in my spare time. You see, when Sinatra would be away, excuse me, I would have extra time, and I would fill that time in with other clients that I had. So they would see my face, not a security person all the time, but every once in a while they would see me.
Richard, when 100 years ago, I was in advertising, and because of the work we did and some of the programs we were putting on for our consumer clients, I got to meet some. When I say meet, I mean briefly meet. I met Joan Crawford, Lou Rawls, Perry Como, Burns. What struck me, though, was that when they weren't on stage, when they weren't performing, they were just normal people. They had their feet up with a beer in their hands watching a Phillies game when they were in town. Connie Stevens called the house one night because we were working on a project, and my wife just flipped out. Connie Stevens called the house for you? Rick? Is Rick there?
Dealing with these celebrities it's uniquely challenging. They do have their own personalities, but you know what? You don't get involved in it. You're there for a reason. You're there to protect their welfare, and whatever they do, whatever they say, or wherever they go, you're just kind of a shadow of it. And again, you're right. They all do. They're all different, but they're all so nice. I have to tell you, I have never had one person that I would have a bad word against. They were nice to me. I was nice to them. We did a lot of research. If I knew a celebrity was coming into town, we research what they want. I want to know what their hobbies are. I want to know where they like to go, the restaurants they like to go. I want to know the hotels they stay in. I want to even know the people they associate with. We would also do a background on that celebrity, because as you see what's going on today, a person is up here, and in 2 seconds, somebody writes something about them.
Yes.
You're blindsided, and I always wanted to be prepared that nothing is going to get us in the end. You know what I mean? So we did research even on the person, the protectee. We wanted to know who we were protecting. And there are a lot of people we wouldn't accept. I could give you a list of people that, I'm sorry, I didn't want to be involved. And that's it, and I didn't do it. That's where it is with their personalities.
My guest today on 30 Minutes has been Richard Ayoob, who is founder and senior consultant for a firm that he started 50 years ago. You were a pioneer back then. I really appreciate your being with me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I appreciate it.